In this video, I'm going to do a quick update on the E55, which I've owned for about 2 years now, and I'm going to talk about fixing a charging issue. The first symptom that I noticed was a weird burning smell coming from the engine after driving the car. After investigating the smell and parking the car back in the garage, an error message popped up on screen warning of a low battery. I checked the voltage after starting the car again, and indeed the car was only showing 11.5 volts while running, instead of the correct number, which would be 14. So couple that with the burning smell, and that is likely an alternator issue. So I ordered the OE Bosch alternator for this car and began the repair. I started the work by disconnecting the battery, removing the negative terminal first with a 10mm socket. Then under the hood I removed the front engine cover and the air intake snorkels. I removed the supercharger and accessory belts, but these can be done once the fan is removed as well. The tensioners use a 17mm socket. Then I removed the double idler pulley using a T50 bit. I then pulled back the rubber seal from the front panel. Underneath the car, I removed the front protective panel with an 8mm socket and began to drain the radiator. I attached a hose to the drain and opened the valve to release the coolant. I'm going to collect and reuse the coolant because I recently replaced it. Once the radiator was drained, I started removing the front panel in the engine bay, as we are removing the cooling fan. This is done with a 10mm socket and a T30 bit, as well as lifting a few plastic push pins. Once the panel is out, I popped up the 2 tabs holding the fan shroud and then unplugged the cable for the fan. So at the top, the fan is loose. Going underneath, you have to release some hoses from the fan shroud, therefore you need to remove a T20 screw from the bottom of the passenger side corner of the fan shroud. On the driver's side, you need to pop out a hose from a clip on the fan and lift the hoses attached to the fan shroud by a silver clamp. You need to lift the clamp out of the hook on the shroud. And just like that, the fan will be free, and you need to lift it up and out, getting the passenger side a bit higher to clear the radiator on the way out. Now we have a lot more room to work, but I put in a piece of cardboard to protect the radiator from being hit. Then I removed one of the E10 bolts from the valve cover to free these 2 intercooler hoses. Then I unplugged these 2 hoses by squeezing their clamps and moving them down the pipes. Vice grip pliers are good for this. Then I unplugged the big radiator hose from the passenger side after twisting the retaining clip. Some coolant spilled out as the hose was moved around, so keep something under the car to catch it and avoid a mess. Underneath the car, I removed the center plastic under tray and started working on the back of the alternator. I unplugged the electrical connector and then unbolted the 13mm nut from the alternator. The coolant hose running right in front of the alternator also needs to be unclipped. Then I removed the 2 mounting bolts for the alternator using an E14 socket. The alternator may require a nudge with a pry bar to get it out. Once it was free, I also lifted the auxiliary coolant pump from its mounting to get more room, and the alternator is able to come out of the car. With the old beside the new, we can see the melted plastic on the back of the old one, so that's what I was smelling earlier. Now you need to get the new alternator back in the car, and the rest of the process is pretty much in reverse order. The alternator may require some gentle taps to get it into place, but only use plastic or rubber tools. Check that the E14 bolts line up and torque them both down to 45 Nm. Then we can plug back all the coolant hoses that we removed and torque down that one bolt on the valve cover back to 8 Nm. When putting back the double idler pulley, you want to torque it to 68 Nm. Then I put back all the drive belts, since it's easier to do them with the fan still out. Then I removed the cardboard and brought the fan back in and clipped those hoses to the shroud and put back that T20 screw. While under the car, I plugged back the connector on the alternator and torqued down the 13mm nut on the cable to 14 Nm. You can then reattach the plastic undertrays. Back in the engine bay, I reinstalled the front panel and began filling the coolant. Some coolant spilled out of the hoses as I moved them around earlier, so I have extra new coolant and distilled water to top the system back up after I put back all the coolant. Then I reattached the engine cover. After that, I plugged in the battery and the job was done. Starting back the car, we get a nice 14 volts on the dash, so this E55 is back up and running. I gave the car a quick wash and took it to Cars and Coffee to see some nice cars. I haven't done much else to this E55 since the last update, other than an oil change earlier this year. As for the 63, I changed the oil earlier this year as well, and also gave the car a good 2-step polish. Since the car turned 15 years old in March 2022, it became eligible for collector's insurance in British Columbia. Normally a car has to be 25 years old for collectors, but if less than 1,500 units were made worldwide, it only needs to be 15 years old. All you need is a letter from the manufacturer confirming this. Mercedes got back to me that there were only 400 CLK63 convertibles that were sold globally in 2007. Collector is good because you have much lower insurance costs. The only thing left to do is fix the front license plate mount to clear the parking sensors like I did with my old E55. I'm just using a generic eBay mount with a custom piece to drop the plate a few inches. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, take a look at my store. Link is in the description. If you want to see more AMG content, subscribe for more videos like this one.